Hello everyone, our lesson for today is all about non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers are trade barriers that restrict the import or export of goods through means other than tariff. The World Trade Organization, or WTO, identifies various non-tariff barriers to trade, including import licensing, pre-shipment inspections, rules of origin, custom layers, and other mechanisms that prevent or restrict trade. Developed countries use non-tariff barriers as an economic strategy to control the level of trade they conduct with other countries. When making decisions on the non-tariff barriers to implement into international trade, countries base the barriers on the availability of goods and services for import and export, as well as the existing political alliances with other trade partners. Developed countries may elect to release other countries from being subjected to additional taxes on imported or exported goods, and instead create other non tariff barriers with a different monetary effect. During the formation of nation states, countries had to devise ways of raising money to finance local projects and pay recurrent expenditures. One of these ways was the introduction of tariffs, which placed restrictions on imported and exported goods and services. However, industrialized countries transitioned from tariff barriers to non tariff barriers, since they had built on other sources of funding. Most developing nations still rely on tariff barriers as a way of raising revenues to finance national projects while regulating international trade with other countries. Later, the industrialized countries switched from tariff to non tariff barriers for several reasons. One reason was to regulate international trade even in the absence of tariff barriers. It exempts certain countries from paying additional taxes on goods and instead created other meaningful non tariff barriers. A second reason for introducing non tariff barriers is to support weak industries that have been affected by the reduction or withdrawal of tariff barriers. And lastly, a final reason is that non tariff barriers are an avenue for interest groups to influence trade regulation in the absence of trade tariffs. Now, non tariff barriers may take the following forms. These are the three types of non tariff barriers. First one is protectionist, second is assistive policies, and the third is non protectionist policies. So, protectionist barriers are designed to protect certain sectors of domestic industries at the expense of other countries. The restrictions may make it difficult for other countries to compete favorably with locally produced goods and services. The barriers may take the form of licensing requirements, allocation of quotas, anti dumping duties, import duties, and others. Second is assistive policies. Although assistive policies are designed to protect domestic companies and enterprises, they do not directly restrict trade with other countries, but they implement actions that can impede free trade from other countries. Examples of assistive barriers include custom procedures, packaging and labeling requirements, technical standards and norms, sanitary standards, and other assistive policies. The third types of non-tariff barriers is non-protectionist policies. and these are not designed to directly restrict the import or export of goods and services, but the overall outcome may lead to free trade restrictions. The policies are primarily designed to protect the health and safety of people and animals while maintaining the integrity of the environment. Some of the examples are uh, licensing, packaging and labeling requirements, plant and animal inspections, import bans for specific fishing or harvesting methods, and sanitary rules. So let's proceed to the examples of non-tariff barriers. So there are four examples. The first one is licenses, then embargoes, quotas, and import deposit. So now let's go to licenses. These are one of the most common instruments that countries use to regulate the importation of goods. A license system allows authorized companies to import specific commodities that are included in the list of licensed goods. Product licenses can either be a general license or a one time license. The general license allows the importation and exportation of permitted goods for a specific period, while the one time license allows a specific product importer to import a specified quantity of the product, and it specifies the cost, country of origin, and the customs point through which the importation will be carried out. Second is quota, and these are quantitative restrictions that are imposed on imports and exports of specific product for a specified period. Countries use quotas as direct forms of administrative regulation of foreign trade, and it narrows down the range of countries where firms can trade certain commodities. It caps the number of goods that can be imported or exported at any given time. The third one is embargoes, and these are the total bans of trade on specific commodities and may be imposed on imports or exports of specific goods that are supplied to or from specific countries. They are considered legal barriers to trade, and governments may implement such measures to achieve specific economic and political goals. And the last example of non tariff barriers is import deposit. Import deposit is a form of foreign trade regulation that requires importers to pay the central bank of the country a specified sum of money for a definite period. The amount paid should be equal to the cost of imported goods. So that's the end of our topic for today. In conclusion, non tariff barriers refers to any measures other than customs tariffs that regulate imports or exports into a country. Industrialized countries use non tariff barriers to protect local industries against foreign competition. Common examples of non tariff barriers include licenses, quotas, embargoes, foreign exchange restrictions, and import deposits. So that's the end of this topic for today. I hope you learned something and have a good day, everyone.